All right, thank you. So, got a song here for you, and I want you to sing the chorus with me, everybody. Because my talk is all about showing up. So your part is just show up. I'll show you how it goes. Another one of those mornings when I'm trying to talk myself out of bed. Anyone relate to that? All my good intentions are rolling around in my head. And I say, get it in gear, honey. I don't want to hear it. Get out the door. Get your feet on the floor and just show up. Take your time. Don't always have to be the first one in line. Just show up, slow down, let it be so easy. Just show up. That's it. Just show up. It might be as simple as just getting out of my way. Can anyone relate to that? Just show up. Sweet invitation to be present and willing every day. Just show up. Here's a concept. Maybe I don't need to push that hard. One step at a time. Straight from the heart and just show up. Take your time. Don't always have to be the first one in line. Just show up, slow down, let it be so easy. Just show up. Just show up. Because here's the thing. You never know what could happen. You never know what might be. If I make room for a miracle to show up in me. Show up. Just show up. You know, 80% of success is showing up. That's what Woody Allen says. Show up, just show up, just show up. Yeah, now show up. Oh, show up. Take your time. You don't always have to be the first one in line. Just show up, slow down, let it be. Say, just show up. Just show up. Just show up. Just show up. So that is what it's about today. Is just showing up. Did you get that quote I said? 80% of success is just showing up. Don't you think that that's true? So, you know, and Brene Brown said, sometimes the bravest and most important thing you can do is just show up. Haven't you ever found that? Like I love in the song, just put your feet on the floor, get out the door, just show up. So with Mother's Day coming up very soon, we've all been hearing about all the get flowers, Mother's Day, Mother's Day. You know, at this time of year, I always think about my mom, and I just think about the qualities that she gave me. And, you know, whether you had a mom that was really good to you, or you had issues with her, you took on qualities. Either you said, oh, I want that quality, or you said, I ain't going to have that quality. And you did something to change it. But in my case, with my mom, she showed me some really interesting things. And I would say one of the main qualities that she gave me that I want to talk about today is the idea of how life really is about showing up to yourself, to the world, to your friends and family. but not only just showing up, how you show up. And I want to just talk about that today because what my mom taught me just through modeling, modeling her behavior, how she showed up for her work. Now, she was self employed. She ran a magazine by herself. She did all the typesetting, she did everything. And it's 7 o'clock in the morning. I remember waking up as a little kid hearing, do you remember an IBM Selectric machine? It made all this noise. Every morning, that's what would wake me up was her IBM Selectric going in the morning, just printing out those pages. And I remember one of the things that she really modeled for me was how she showed up for herself. And, we lived high on a hill in Hollywood. She worked by herself. We had, no employees. She's doing all this by herself. So she's home all day by herself. But every morning she would put on makeup. She would fully put on her makeup. She'd do her lashes. She'd coif her hair. She'd do the whole thing. And I remember when I was a teenager, I came to her and I said, Mom, why would you take the time to do this? No one's even going to see you. She gave me the best lesson ever. She said, but I'll see me. I'll walk by a mirror sometime today or see my reflection in the glass and I'll see me and I'm the most important person. I went, oh, okay. And then one of the things that she did, David, you can get that thing up in a second. She showed up for her creativity in a way that I thought was so powerful that it really gave me as a musician, as an artist, it's really impacted me. That she, as much as she had this career, and she also showed up for me by stopping her work every day to have cookies and milk with me when I came home from school. I mean, in the middle of her busy day, she would just stop, ask me how my day was, sit there for 30 minutes with me when I know she was thinking, I got to get back to work. I got to finish these things. But she would stop and just totally listen and ask me and be so present to what my day was. And I'm just blathering on about all this stuff about junior high school. And she would just listen and be there. But the biggest thing I would think that she gave to me was how she showed up for her creativity. In the midst of this busyness that she had, she made time to be creative. And she would paint and sketch and do all these different things. But one of the most poignant moments in my entire life was the day before she died, the day before she passed. She had been working on these little figurines, these little clay figurines, and she had made a Santa Claus. And it was in her room next to her. And now she's not even speaking. She can't even get out of bed. But check out this little Santa Claus. Now look at the little boots. She had painted the entire Santa Claus, but what had been left were the little boots. Oh, I'm going to get emotional here. And she got out of bed. She motioned to us, I got to get out of bed. We don't even know what she was doing, but we sat her in this chair. She motioned for her paints and she sat there and painted these little boots. And as soon as she was done, it took her about an hour to paint the little boots. She motioned to us, okay, I'm done, got into bed, and she died that night. And I just think, that was an example to me of honoring that creativity. Like she had to finish that before she left. Like that was the most important thing. Yeah, hearts all around, Connie. So sweet. But what that gave to me was lessons in how I show up for me in my life. And one of the ways that translated is that with my career, with being a musician, starting off in my 20s, I learned very early on that no one was going to do it for me. No one was going to do it for me. I wasn't going to have the phone wasn't going to ring with all these jobs. It's like if I wanted to be a singer, if I wanted to be a songwriter, if I wanted to be making my living as a musician, I had to get out there and do it. And I remember going up and down. I remember in North Beach in San Francisco, walking up and down the streets and looking in the restaurants to see who had a piano. And I remember I found this one little restaurant who had a piano in the corner. And I just went up to the guy and I said, hi there, my name's Karen and I'm a musician. Can I play for dinner and you could see if I'm any good and then you can hire me? And he's like, you mean I don't have to pay you anything? Just pay you dinner? It's like, yeah, do it. But that's how I would do stuff. I would just go, what can I create? Just like my mom did. What can I do on my own? And then, when I look at how I show up for myself, one of the main things that I do is I think you've heard me talk before about my swimming. I'm a swimmer, and I, even though I know I'm going to swim at the exact same time, 3 or 4 days a week, it's in my calendar. It's like 8:30 in the morning. And it doesn't matter if it's raining. I mean, yes, on Saturday when we were having that torrential downpour, I'm walking out on the deck completely it's freezing, it's raining, and I got in the water. And even in the middle of December, when there's like steam coming up from the pool because it's so cold and there's ice on the deck, I show up because I know that that's what I need in my life to be able to do that. And then I look at how I show up for my friends. Again, another way that my mom modeled this for me of how she showed up for people. That I would say, when I look at some of the qualities in myself, I know that I'm like the most loyal friend. And that was tested years ago. I might have mentioned this story to you all before, but when my friend Janet was knowing that her time on this planet was ending, that her cancer had returned and she had, X amount of months left to live, she invited 8 of her closest friends to walk with her down this path. And, one of the things I think about showing up is about showing up when it's uncomfortable. Do you still do it? And, here's a woman, one of my closest friends. I'm walking her down this path of dying. And, how I would get triggered around that. And, especially because it was cancer and, doing the dance I did with my mother with this. And I would just get these knots in my stomach of like, oh God, I can't do this. But it's like, she asked me, can you be there? And everyone had different roles that they just sort of fell into, and mine was definitely not cooking. Thank you very much. But it was music. And I would schlep my piano up to her little house in Petaluma, and I would sing to her sometimes when she was sleeping or whatever she needed. I would just be the one just singing to her. And I was actually one of the ones there when she actually made her transition. And I was singing, I had a CD on of the song that I wrote with her, that she prayed in the middle of this song, and she prayed herself out and she was gone by the end of that song. But I looked at that and I thought, she asked me to do this. And yes, it's uncomfortable. And yes, there were times when I got triggered and I thought, I just can't do this. I mean, I remember crying, sitting in my car crying, going, I can't do this anymore. But I showed up. And because of that, I'm not saying this like, oh, aren't I so great? I showed up. It's just like it's a core principle in me to show up, however that looks. Even if I'm showing up feeling upset, just sometimes I would just sit there and do nothing except sit next to her and hold her hand for hours. Show up. So my question to you is, how do you guys show up? How do you show up? How do you show up to your friends, to your family, to yourself? One of my favorite little things is my Kuan Yin. And you'll notice Kuan Yin, her right hand is up and her left hand is down in the receiving. And what I do when I start every one of my women's retreats, one of the first things I do with all my women's retreats, and Anne has seen me do this a million times, is I ask everyone, I say, your right hand is your giving forth energy. Your left hand is the receiving. So I ask everyone to say their name and say, how are you showing up at this retreat? What is it that you bring? And then I say, and what do you want to receive from this retreat? But when we take the time to really look at, how do I show up? What is it that I bring to my friends, to this center, this church group, to myself? I think it's a really, really great exercise. And it also is an exercise in giving yourself credit for how you do show up. Because I don't think a lot of times we don't talk about that. We don't say, well, I show up as a really happy person, or like, here she's saying, oh, I'm joyful. When Karen shows up, she's joyful. Well, how do you want people to see you? Michelle Obama said, we practice what we become. So it's like, if you want to be a joyful person, show up as a joyful person. If you want to be a good friend, show up as a good friend that's going to show up in whatever you want. It's like you have to practice those things. But I want to share with you this little video here that every day we have that choice of how we're going to show up. And it starts with the very, very first thing in the morning, what you're saying to yourself. And I love this little video. So, David, if you would play that for us.
Every morning in SEAL training, my instructors, who at the time were all Vietnam veterans, would show up in my barracks room, and the first thing they'd do was inspect my bed. If you did it right, the corners would be square, the covers would be pulled tight, the pillow centered just under the headboard, and the extra blanket folded neatly at the foot of the rack. It was a simple task, mundane at best, but every morning we were required to make our bed to perfection. It seemed a little ridiculous at the time, particularly in light of the fact that we were aspiring to be real warriors, tough, battle-hardened SEALs. But the wisdom of this simple act has been proven to me many times over. If you make your bed every morning, you will have accomplished the first task of the day. It will give you a small sense of pride, and it will encourage you to do another task, and another, and another. And by the end of the day, that one task completed will have turned into many tasks completed. Making your bed will also reinforce the fact that the little things in life matter. If you can't do the little things right, you'll never be able to do the big things right. And if by chance you have a miserable day, you will come home to a bed that is made, that you made. And a made bed gives you encouragement that tomorrow will be better. So if you want to change the world, start off by making your bed.
Isn't that great? Love that. Thank you, David. So one of the ways that I think what I try and how I show up every day to myself is I give myself a word. I say, how do I want this day to be? What does my heart have to say? What do I want this day to be? And a lot of times the word that I say is I want to be present. I just want to be present. I want to show up as a present person. I don't want to be checked out and thinking about what else I have to do. If I'm with a friend, I want to be hearing what they're saying and not have to say, wait, what did you say? I wasn't listening. I want to be, that to me is like, I've learned in my life the biggest gift we can ever give anyone is to be seen and heard. And that's who I want to be to myself and to other people. And so I had a situation recently that I got to practice this. So I did a gig in Florida recently, and I did the church gig, and everybody that I was with was like, oh my God, we're in Florida. We've got to go to Disney World. Yay. And so the woman who organized this whole thing, this is her happy place. Let me tell you. I mean, I went with 5 other women, and I'm kind of going, okay, wait a minute. I'm an introvert, highly sensitive person, empath. It's hot. It's spring break. It's so crowded. This was like my hell. But the woman in charge, she's got her ears, her Mickey Mouse ears. She's like leading us on this parade from this ride to that ride. And she knows how to do the thing on her apps where, we just walk in. We don't have to wait for 2 hours. But it's hell for me, basically. But at one point, after us charging around this park for hours and hours, we finally sit down. And I'm like, thank God we could just sit and be quiet for just a moment. And again, with that idea of I want to be present, I look, and here's this woman who has a cart of all of these bubble maker thingies. The things that spurt out bubbles. So it's Mickey Mouse, it's the Little Mermaid, it's, all these different characters, these Disneyland characters. And this woman, now I'm just sitting there, I'm just kind of sitting for a minute, but I look at her and I'm going, oh my God. Because I had that idea of being present, I'm able to physically see her, whereas no one else is. Everyone's walking by her like she doesn't exist. But this woman is like bouncing like this. She's got her bubble machine going. She's singing, she's dancing. I mean, there's music happening in the background. And she's saying hi to everybody. They're barely even looking at her. But I'm watching her for like 5 minutes going, oh my God, this woman is amazing. So I go up to her and I say, excuse me, I don't mean to interrupt your dancing here, but you're amazing. I said, does Disney World say that you have to be dancing like this for hours? And she's like kind of amazed that I've even noticed her. But she goes, oh no, you just have to sell your little bubble machines. But I'm listening to the music and it's a beautiful day in Florida and I'm seeing all these happy people and it just makes me happy. And, I used to have a corporate job where I made all this money, but I was miserable. But now I'm doing this and I'm blowing my bubbles. And David, if you want to show that little picture of her, if that's easy to do. Wait, there's Santa. That's not her, but it's good enough. There she is. Now look at this. She just sits there with these bubble things all day long and is just thrilled. And thank you. Do you notice my little ears? I was very happy with my ears. And so, I just looked at this and I said to her, do you realize what a difference you're making? And I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but when you say that to someone who has one of those kind of thankless jobs that they kind of go, really? I mean, she was just blown away. And all of my whole little group came up to her and just loved on her. And she just was beaming. But everybody was walking by her, not even seeing her. And, I just think that when we can take the time to be present and show up in a way that acknowledges other people. Like I was on a Southwest Airlines flight a while ago, and there was this person who was this woman loading all the bags herself. And she's throwing the bags in like this. And I'm just sitting there. I'm got a window seat and I'm looking down at her. And she's doing this. And she must have felt my energy looking at her, because all of a sudden she looks up at me and I'm going, yes, you rock. And I'm just going like, Liz, I'm making all these, this is all pantomime because I can't talk to her, but I'm just going, you rock, babe. And, I'm just doing all this stuff. And to watch her expression where she was just doing this before, she's going like, really? And I could tell that it's like, who has even acknowledged this woman for what she's doing? She's loading all these heavy bags. And so, she keeps doing this and she goes back to work. And every once in a while I could see her look up to see if I'm still looking at her. But, that's what we've got to do. We've got to take the time to acknowledge each other in that way. And that's again, showing up showing up in kindness. You could really almost make it a game. Today I want to show up in presence. Today I want to show up in love. Today I want to show up in what? But I have to tell you that one of my favorite stories that I'd love to share with you is, and I can't remember if I told you all about this before, but it's one of my favorite stories of showing up. So in my swim class, my swim team, there's a woman who swims right next to me named Cynthia, she admittedly says, I'm the slowest person that has ever been in this pool. I mean, she swims like this. But talk about showing up, rain or shine, Cynthia comes and she swims her, I think, 70 laps every time. It takes her, we're doing like 150 laps to her 70. I mean, she's so slow, but she just shows up. And she's 75 years old. She's a 28-year cancer survivor. And she told me that she was signing up for all these different events after her last cancer experience. And she said, I want to show up 100% and live my life to the very essence of it until I go. And so Cynthia signed up for this thing called the Waikiki Rough Water Swim, which was in September. Did I tell you this story yet? I can't remember if I told you about this. Okay, this is too fun. So I did this swim 25 years ago, and I thought, well, why not do this thing? So I signed up for this. This was over Labor Day. There's 800 people who do this swim. It's the length of Waikiki Beach. It's 2.5 miles. And Cynthia was there, along with a few other people from my swim team. And I got in the water. You go off in these big waves of people. And I start swimming, and I'm, you try not to get beat up by, the feet and the hands all around you. But I start swimming and I'm going, oh my God, if I'm having this hard of a time, what's going to happen to Cynthia? I mean, it was like being in a washing machine. The waves were going from all sides. You couldn't ever like really get a good stroke going because it was just like, and I went, oh, this is why they call it the rough water swim. And what you do is you just try and look for the buoys along the way. So it's like, okay, Drucker, just focus in. Where's the first red buoy? And I just had to really concentrate. But the entire time I'm swimming and I'm having such a hard time, I keep thinking of Cynthia. And Cynthia brought her entire family to view this big accomplishment. She's got the grandkids. She's got her daughters and the husbands. I mean, everybody's there. And I eventually finished. It took me about an hour and a half to do this. I was about like 8 minutes slower than I was 25 years ago. But I come in, I'm like, yay, I finished this thing. And I had heard the year before they had pulled out of the water like 200 people because it was so rough. And actually, the night before, they sent out an email to everyone that had signed up for the swim saying, the currents are going to be so bad tomorrow that if you're a slow swimmer, don't even bother coming to the race. I mean, like, don't even show up. It's going to be that hard. But there was Cynthia at the start. I'm going to do it. So I come in and I get, I towel off. I'm, relaxing for a while. And then I'm wondering about Cynthia. And I go to the desk to find out, has she been pulled out yet? It's like, no, she's still out there. So now I go down to the bay there, and her whole family is just, everyone's like, where is she? Where is she? Like, they're all doing this, and we can't see anything. Finally, and we're waiting forever, and we're just, we've heard that no one else got pulled out, but I mean, all of us, we've got this whole line of people that are there trying to see her way out in the distance. Finally, we see these 2 jet skis, which means that the last people that are coming in, the jet ski people are bringing them in. We see a little splash, and someone goes, I see her arm, I see her arm. So now we're all freaking out, going, come on, you can do it. And they have one guy next to her, this guy who's swimming just as slow as her. And we're going, come on, you got to beat the guy. And she'll be the last one in. But finally, we're all like, yelling and screaming. And, and the people all on the beach are watching us. Now, everybody on the beach, all the people, the tourists that are in the water that don't even know what this is about, everyone's watching Cynthia. And finally, she comes in, and we have a little video I want to show you of Cynthia coming in for her big finish. So that's her grandson jumping up and down. There she is with the guy right behind. She's trying to beat him. So she can hardly even stand up. She starts going the wrong way. And we're all going, no, the finish line is over here. So she was the last person in at 3 hours, and the cutoff time was 3 hours, and she just made the cutoff time. So, and I made such a big deal about this. I said to her, I realized, Cynthia, me coming to do this swim was not even about me swimming. It was about watching you. Oh God, I'm up. I just said, it's about you. It's about watching what the human spirit is all about. That it's 3 hours long, that you just keep going and you keep showing up, and you show up to work out because you know that this thing was coming and you wanted to be in shape for it. And it was so inspiring. And so the question I have for all of you once again is, how are you showing up in your life and giving yourself credit for the ways that you do? That if you have an animal, that you show up and you feed them and you walk them. If you have plants, that you water them. Your friends, your family, especially your family. When you think about, Ram Dass has a great quote that said, every time you think you're enlightened, just go spend a week with your family, which I just love that one. But I want to end with this and just say that, that we can show up to the world where sometimes, especially with all that we're going through in our lives, with what's happening in the world right now, that it can just feel so overwhelming. Like, how do I show up to make a difference with, Ukraine, or, all this the stuff that's going on? What can I do? Little me, how can I show up and make a difference? So let me read you this little short story. One morning, a peaceful elderly man was walking along the beach. A big storm had just passed, and the beach was littered with just thousands and thousands of starfish as far as the eye could see. In the distance, he noticed a young woman picking the starfish up and throwing them back into the sea. As he approached her, he said, "Why are you throwing the starfish back into the ocean?" The woman replied, "Well, when the sun gets high in the sky, unless I throw them back into the water, they're all going to die." The man scanned the beach for miles and miles, and he said, "There must be tens of thousands of starfish. Sending a few back into the water can't possibly make a difference." The woman knelt down, picked up another starfish, and threw it back into the ocean. Then she smiled at him and said, "It makes a difference to that one." So with that, I'll end with this little thing. This actually is a nice ending with our beautiful meditation that we had, of just saying, "May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be peaceful and at ease. And may I be happy." Can you sing that with me? May I be filled. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well, peaceful. May I be peaceful and at ease. And may I be happy. Now, if you have it in gallery view, look around the room and say, "May you be filled with loving kindness. May you be well. May you be peaceful and at ease. And may you be happy." Now let's put your hands to the screen and say, May we be filled with loving kindness. May we be well. May we be peaceful and at ease. And may we be happy. Now put your hands on your heart. Give it to yourself one more time. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be peaceful and at ease. And may I be happy. And may I be happy. May I show up happy. And may I show up being happy. So show up in your best beautiful selves, and we'll heal the world. Thank you all for listening.
Thank you, Karen. Hey, why don't we improvise a little something? Would you be open to us closing with a song or two from you, and then we'll just go and end with announcements right after that?
Sure. Yeah. So this kind of puts a little button on all of what we just said. So it shall be. So it shall be. Whatever I focus on, I will see. I take a breath. I trust and believe. I let go. And so it shall be. So sing after me. Just do this. So it shall be. So it shall be. So it shall be. So whatever I focus on, whatever I focus on, I will see. I will see. I take a breath. I take a breath. I trust and believe. I trust and I let go. I let go. And so it shall be. And so it shall be. Sing it one more time. So it shall be. So it shall be. Whatever I focus I will see. I take a breath. I take a breath. I trust and believe. I let go, and so it shall be. I let go. I let go, and so it shall be. I let go, and so it shall be. Yay.
Thank you, Karen Drucker. Oh my gosh. Ah, I'm so filled.